Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to the marketplace. My name is Darryl Kwao. Coming up this afternoon, Bank of Ghana directs banks to desist from paying dividends to shareholders throughout coronavirus pandemic period. We'll tell you why. Also coming up, U.S. oil prices crash, and what can Ghana learn? COPEC is asking boards to stock oil in its strategic reserves. We'll explore that. And as domestic flights are set to resume, there are new health protocols to follow. We'll fill you in. Thanks for joining us on the marketplace. Details right after this break. Welcome back, everyone, to the marketplace. We begin with the oil market, and the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers Ghana has called on government to consider supporting the bulk oil storage and transportation company boards to open a good credit line or system in order to stock oil for the country's strategic reserves or stocking needs. This follows the collapse of the price for WTI crude oil, selling at negative $1.58 a barrel the last time we checked. Let's get some more understanding on what is happening with crude oil prices. Joining me is an analyst with the Institute for Energy Security, Raymond Nwoko. Thanks for joining us this afternoon, Raymond. Good to see you. Now, let's differentiate between what WTI is and how different it is from Brent crude.
Thank you very much. In the crude market, we have benchmarks. And for here in Ghana, we concern ourselves with the international benchmark, that's Brent crude, mostly in the European market. And in the US, that's America, they also have their international benchmark, that's the WTI. Yeah. So that's the difference.
Okay.
So most times what's happening in the American market does not directly affect us, but it all in the oil industry, so indirectly have some repercussion for us. Yeah.
All right, we'll come to the repercussions, but what is triggering this drop to the negatives? What does it mean for oil prices and for production globally?
Okay, for what happened yesterday is basically due to storage space completely or literally getting overwhelmed. Oil products are traded in 8 future prices, and May futures were supposed to expire today, and because yesterday was the last day to today's ending, a lot of holders want to sell off their futures and enter the June futures. So therefore, they are looking for buyers, and there are no buyers because there's no storage space for you to buy and hold. So therefore, they better have to pay. Producers have to pay buyers to be able to take their products off their hand. So basically, that's what happened. We are in negative because producers have to pay the buyers to take off their products. So that's what happened yesterday.
Okay.
And even to today. Yeah.
So you've written a piece about this. I was reading about it, and you make the point. We are making the point that this has no trickle-down effect whatsoever on prices at the pumps here locally. But you also talk about repercussions. Can you put all of that into perspective for us?
Yeah, I said it's not having direct effect on our local pumps here because we do not trade in WTI, we trade in international Brent crude. However, this morning around 11 o'clock, we realized that the Brent crude had a very big hit. It's now below 20. That's the lowest since 2002, sorry. That's 18 years ago. So we should know that what happened in America yesterday is also having an effect in the European market, which Ghana is also a stakeholder. So like I said yesterday in my piece in the evening, I said prices will not significantly be affected. But what happened today at 11 a.m. when it continues, because prices are still coming down below 20, we may see a significant reduction going into the first pricing window of May. Yeah.
Right.
And what it means for government also is that even the small revenue they want to get from a broken oil industry is also going to dry up. Because remember, I always say that, we peg our oil projections around $62 per barrel. That's the beginning of the year. And now prices are below 20. That's a very huge tumbling of prices at the world oil market.
Great. I want to ask you, because we've been reporting this, COPEC asking that Boss stocks up its oil reserves. I don't know whether that is the key learning from what the U.S. is experiencing, but what do you make of the call?
Okay, so we at IES have advocated for this since February, the beginning of February, when we monitored the market in January through to February. I spoke to your friend Aboagye-Wiafe, telling me how if Boss was supposed to be managed properly and have a lot of strategic capacity, they should be buying a lot of the product now and storing, because other countries are doing it. Recently, America did it. They bought the product around 30 per dollar. And even China, when they were under the pandemic, still they were buying strategic reserves, because it is going to help them in the future when prices began to rally. You understand? So it's a good call. It's not late. Prices are still tumbling. And because demand is supposed to crash in the month of April by 29 barrel. By 29 barrel. So definitely it's good for us to buy. If we don't have the capacity, we can get the capacity from the private sector, come into negotiation with them to get this capacity, so that in the future our consumers can have some relief when prices begin to rally up.
Just hold on a moment for me. I want to ask you one last question to do with Tullow Oil PLC, which has appointed Rahul Deer as Chief Executive Officer and Executive Director of the group. Now, Rahul, according to a statement released by Tullow, will take up his appointment from the 1st of July 2020, and Dorothy Thompson, currently Executive Chair of Tullow, will return to her position as non-executive chair after a limited period of handover. That is Rahul you are seeing in your shots. The statement says he brings extensive leadership experience in oil and gas to Tullow. He is currently CEO of Delonex Energy, an Africa-focused oil and gas company that he founded in 2013. We have just 30 seconds for this. We know that Tullow has been struggling in recent months. Raymond, what should be the focus of this new CEO?
Okay, first it has to be about cost management. Second, it has to be about extensive research to determine where they should continue investing their capital resources inside. Because at the moment, if you don't cost manage, you're going to run into bankruptcy. So it's first time to do a lot of cost analysis to evaluate all their production stock, which one to close and which one to aggressively pursue. These are his basics: cost management, cost analysis, and a lot of research to know which one to pursue and which one to reject.
All right. Thank you so much for your perspective this afternoon. That was Raymond Nuopo. He is an analyst with the Institute for Energy Security. So we've been speaking about Boss. Well, the managing director of that company, Edwin Provençal, is promising to break even at the close of the year, ending the cycle of losses the company has been making. Boss is said to have lost 569 million cedis in 2016. The same year, the company is said to have paid bonuses and dividend to government. Here's Managing Director Edwin Provençal.
Anybody at all can come up and say we are making profits, and they can give government some peanuts and say we are making profit. When the financials were audited, that was the period we made our highest losses. So it was not true. We were deceived.
I see.
Now, since 2017 to date, we have minimized the losses we've been making. From 569 million loss, we are now operating at it. As a 2019 management account, so hovering around 88 million.
That's the management account, and that's the kind of account you are disputing, saying that you cannot use it to make.
So let me use the audited account.
Why don't you use audited account?
So we had an audited account from 2014 to 2016. We audited the account. 2014 we made a loss of 304 million Ghana cedis. 2015 we made a loss of 73 million Ghana cedis. 2016 we made a loss of 569 million Ghana cedis. 2017 audited account shows a loss of, we reduced it from 570 million Ghana cedis to 80 million Ghana cedis.
And you're proud of yourself. You're still making losses anyway.
Oh, of course.
You're still making losses.
Of course. What we inherited to even make this kind of losses is amazing.
So 2018, what does that account for?
2018, we anticipate to go further lower than the $79 million Ghana cedis, and 2019 even lower. And God willing, by 2020, this year, we may be breaking even.
You're looking to break even?
We are looking to break even.
And how are you going to do that?
So once there have been no audited accounts, anybody at all can play with the management account. And I believe what happened then was that they were leveraging on gross margin, gross profit, not net profit.
That is, taxes have not been deducted.
Depreciation had not been deducted, taxes had not been deducted, operational expenses had not been deducted. All these things hadn't been deducted. What they were doing was that, yes, I sold at 100 cedis, I bought at 80 cedis, so I made a profit of 20 cedis. So I can pay bonuses and say I'm paying government dividend. But guess what? When the audited accounts came up for 2015, 2016. 2015, we made a net loss of 73 million Ghana cedis.
All right, so that was CEO of Boss Edwin Province South. Some news coming to us from the Bank of Ghana. It has suspended distribution of dividends for the financial years 2019 and 2020 in a wake of the coronavirus outbreak. The bank has released a statement to that effect. Joining me in studio with more is Joy Business Assistant Editor Norvan Akwa-Hayford. And so, Norvan, talk to me a bit more about why the Bank of Ghana has suspended payment of dividends to shareholders of banks.
I think that is basically, if you look at what is happening now, the coronavirus pandemic and the kind of things that is happening within economies, the lockdown, we are lucky that, you know, the president on Sunday night lifted the partial restrictive movements that we had in this country. But all the same, there's a lot of pressure on businesses. And the central bank actually at their last monetary policy committee indicated that they were studying the landscape, they were looking at developments within the economy, and had advised, you know, these banks to hold paying dividend and also any other monies that they are supposed to pay to the shareholders. And so clearly why they are saying that is that we are in challenging times, and so at this point we don't think that it's appropriate for you to pay, you know, your shareholders any dividend or any kind of monies that needs to be paid to them. And so that's the reason why they are asking them to hold on for 2019 and 2020, so that if there are any shocks as far as, you know, this period is concerned, you're able to plow back these funds in trying to, you know, make sure that your bank remains liquid and strong.
I have monitored news about some banks having to close some of their branches to absorb some of the pressure that they are under right now. Help us appreciate what kind of pressure the banks are in during this period of the pandemic.
Okay, so if you recall, when the first announcement came, a lot of people went to the banks trying to withdraw cash because people needed cash on them. And so some of the banks were even, a lot of adverts that we saw did indicate that we should rather you know, defer to doing a lot of electronic transactions instead of going into the bank to withdraw hard cash. But it's still the same anyway. People are withdrawing money. They were trying to buy foodstuff. People were withdrawing money trying to do all other things that they needed to do. And so I think that there's a lot of pressure in terms of withdrawals as well, and businesses are suffering. And this is going to affect payment of loans. Some have said that we may see NPLs even go up within this period, because if you have given money to an SME and the SME cannot pay at this time, what happens is you add it to your NPLs. And so the central bank has been looking at all these developments, and they're just advising the banks that, look, instead of paying dividend, don't do that. And don't forget that the central bank also supported some of the banks, you know, by giving them liquidity support. Okay. So in this period, if I have given you liquidity support, and so then you don't have to go paying, even if you made profit in 2019, where we find ourselves is not good. And so let's all hold on with these monies that you need to pay as dividend, and let's ensure that we apply it back into the
And so in a statement released by the Bank of Ghana, and for avoidance of doubt, it says shareholders in this context means holders of common equity shares and additional tier 1 capital instruments of banks and SDIs. And so this is in the interest of banks.
Exactly.
So how should shareholders react to this?
I think that as shareholders themselves, they have to understand that we are in times where you want to see business continuity. we do not want to go back to where we found ourselves some years ago, where banks needed to be closed down and there was no liquidity. People went to banks, they wanted to withdraw cash and they couldn't find it. So yes, we've made some money. We will need money to have business continuity, and so allow your banks to plow back these funds, hoping that after 2020, when we get to 2021, 2022, thereabout, and you make profits, why not? They would get you these funds. All right,
Noban Akwahepo, thanks very much for that perspective. All right, but we're hearing that domestic flights are going to resume soon as the president has eased some travel restrictions. And we'll delve into that right after this break. Stay close. Welcome back to the marketplace. We are turning next to the domestic aviation market, where we're hearing that passengers who exhibit any of the symptoms of coronavirus upon screening at the domestic terminal of the Kotoka International Airport will be denied boarding of flight. This is according to the Director of Public Health of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Bedusa Akwadia, who says the directive is part of the stringent measures to be implemented at all airports to help prevent the spread of the virus as domestic flights begin operations this week. Speaking to my colleague Sheila Tamaklu, Dr. Bedusa Akwadia added that wearing of face masks by passengers is now compulsory.
We would make sure that we screen for signs and symptoms, check for temperatures, and then ask if the people are coming from affected areas within the country. Indeed, we will not mention outside, because for now we are aware that the various borders are closed. But then within the country, there are areas affected, and the use of the health declaration form would enable us to establish if people are coming from this area, and then to pay particular attention to such people, whether they have been in contact with affected people, whether they have been in contact with non-confirmed cases. These would be well monitored and followed up, so that we can make sure that the people don't spread the disease as we start those domestic flights. Then if there are suspected cases, we have to link these people to the various districts, either where they are going or where they are coming from, so that they can be adequately monitored closely and then followed up to find out should there be any development of interest that we have to take note as well. Ensuring adherence to social distancing practice is very key. One, as the people are getting ready to enter the airport. Two, as they are within the airport. Three, when they get on board in the flight. I think these are things that we have to work with the airport operators to make sure that they shouldn't get congested, and then cram people together.
Now, if somebody's temperature is checked and perhaps the person is showing some symptoms, does it imply that the person will be denied boarding?
Indeed, we have to start investigation, and if you check your temperature, you put a risk. You would not subject you to put a risk to others. So this understanding has to be established, and we have to communicate to people to appreciate this. So if you are having temperature, if you are coughing, and we think that you will put a risk once you get on board, we have to restrain you and not to permit. But then this will require that there is dialogue between the airline operators, dialogue between the airport operators, and then general information to the people in the airport. And indeed, I have to mention that the use of face masks is very important this side, and that all the people on board, we have to ensure strict enforcement of the use of face masks around the airport, within the airport, and then also particularly within the air flight.
Joining me now as Sales and Marketing Manager for Domestic Carrier Passionaire, Samuel Razak Techi, to tell me more about resumption of flights. Thanks for your time this afternoon. Let's talk about the new health protocols you're hearing about. How prepared is your airline for this?
Yes, good afternoon. We are prepared. We expect to start our operations hopefully tomorrow. And we have certain protocols in place. Now, these protocols include mandatory sanitization and sanitization. We also have mandatory temperature checks. And passengers will be required to wear face masks on the flight. Throughout the whole duration of the flight, you're supposed to wear your face mask. Would also be
Oopsie, we'll try and get the connection back to Samuel Razak Techi, who is the sales and marketing manager for Passion Air. But like we have been reporting, new health protocols have been rolled out to guide the resumption of domestic flights, which he's telling me his airline would begin tomorrow. We've also heard from Awa, who is also planning that. So you were explaining to us, and great to have you back, what protocols you have in place.
Yes. Yes, we have a mandatory hand sanitization, and this should be done before you board the flight. We also have mandatory temperature checks that will also be done before the flight. During the flight or in the course of the flight or before you board the aircraft, you are expected to have your face mask, which you are expected to don throughout the whole flight. And then also we'll be ensuring some kind of social distancing during the flight.
Okay, so two questions in one. Have you had any bookings yet now that, we are getting indications that you can travel? And how do you make up for the losses? Because, for instance, you have to do social distancing and all of that.
No, people are actually booking. People are interested in flying. They have other things to do. So we are getting some bookings. It's encouraging, considering the fact that this is just the first flight after the lockdown was lifted. With regard to what we're doing regarding our fares still remains unchanged. It's still the same. We'll just be managing the capacity on the aircraft because of the social distancing protocol.
All right, Samuel Techi, thank you so much, sales and marketing manager at Passion Air, and happy that at least we can travel via air domestically for now. That's the marketplace. My name is Darryl Kwao. Thanks for watching. More news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business.